What's your favorite thing about dance? Like, because you've been doing it for a long time, you've been doing it since you're a child, and you've maintained that despite a massive upheaval, moving countries, moving cities, all of the different social dynamics associated with that. What is it about dancing that gives you so much passion?
Oh man, there's so many things, so many things. First of all, I think this is one that's very close to my heart. Um, but I think first of all, acceptance. I think the dance community was the first place I felt like, I was accepted and I could work for my reputation. I could work for my influence and I could work for my status, if that makes sense, in a weird
Mm.
way. Um, Secondly, I think the ability to have to interact with people. I think that as dancers, we get to experience, and it sounds weird, but as dancers, we get to experience other people in a different way. Like we get to have these bonds of friendships and closeness and these experiences that we get to have with people that it's hard to have anywhere else. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, I've met the most incredible people, like from friends to dance partners to girlfriends, and you know what I mean. Like you get to have these experiences with people that I don't know how people do that outside of the community. You know what I mean? When you have something.
I'm not sure how people live without it.
Yeah, I know. It's like when you're passionate, like having a group or having people that you share the same passion with is such a strong thing. It's such a beautiful
Mm.
thing. Um, and I think lastly, just music. Like I've always loved music, and I think dance and music are just like fused 100% to each other. And again, music was one of those things I didn't have the opportunity to learn or to be
Mm.
able to do when I was younger. So being a dancer and needing to put myself through music training and is phenomenal for me. Like it just gives
Mm.
me this. Again, it's like all these opportunities that I've never had and coming to me, and I just want to like embrace it and love it.
Mm. You're
Um,
definitely making up for lost time because for any of you that don't know, like over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, Artie travels a lot, like for moving countries or for touring. And every time this guy moves, he's putting posts up on Facebook. He's like, "Oh, hey, can someone mind my drum kit or my drums or my guitars while I'm going overseas?" Or like,
uh,
you're like a one man band now. You play everything.
oh no, I don't play everything. I'm actually I'm a one man really bad band. Speaking of that, I just like sticks and things here. Um, yeah, no, I'm very time poor, so that's one thing that bothers me. Like I wish I had more time to dedicate to music. I'm actually staying with some musicians at the moment and just seeing how much they practice every day, and I'm like, damn, man, like so. Yeah, I wish I had more time to do music, but no. But also, when I was moving, a lot of times people haven't returned my instruments. Some people still got my guitar and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, that's a little bit about the music.
How is
I feel
learn?
having this urge to ask you how you're doing or how are you going, or ask you, and I'm like, oh wait, this is
We can call each other after the
yeah,
interview.
yeah,
So just a heads up, if Artie's moving house again and you live in Melbourne, he's prepared to give away his instruments until he comes back to
yeah.
Australia. You just have to return them.
Pretty much, man. I don't know if I'll be traveling anytime soon with all this sort of stuff, but
Yeah, no one traveling, bro.
as soon as I can, I'll be out of here.
Mm.
I mean, that sounds horrible. That sounds so bad. I didn't mean it like that, but I mean, as soon as I can, I'd like to go and do what we used to do: travel and dance
Yeah,
and experience things and live life.
I don't feel like the people of Melbourne will be outraged at your statement. It's okay. How is learning music given you like has that given you another perspective to dancing? Has that enhanced your dancing in any way?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, Oliver always talks about it, man. Like learning music just gives you like you start hearing things that you never heard before. You start dancing in a way. You start envisioning what the musician looks like or how is playing something feels like, and that gives you a different perspective on how to dance. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think it's absolutely necessary to understand the basics of music composition, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary to be a musician and a dancer. Just to clarify, because a lot of people are like, oh no, if you want to be a good dancer, you have to be a musician. No, you don't have to be a musician. But yeah, like I think for me, those things are the most important. Like, you know me, I don't really do anything complicated, or I don't heavily invest in content. I heavily invest in concepts. You know what I mean? And that's just what I like and what I do. But recently I did a trip with Pana, and I've been working on content ever since. So it'll be funny to see how it all kind of plays out.
That guy, like, I seen him for the first time, I think in 2017 at the Croatian Congress,
Yeah,
and his social dancing is like another level. Hey, like that dude's
right.
insane.
He is. He's an incredible guy. He's like, and you know what? Beyond that, he's an incredible human. I love him because he's just so down to earth. And when I told him I was coming, he like organized everything for me. He was like, "Oh, do you want to lift from the airport?" Like he was just so kind and supportive, and I have a lot of respect for him as a human.
Mm.
So although he's a great dancer, he's a great person as well. So if I had any recommendation, if you're after learning what he does, then, or if you're after learning content, there's no one better than that guy. Seriously. Yeah.
Have you noticed differences like that when you've traveled abroad, like compared to Australia, how we like measure from a social dancing or artistic perspective compared to a competition perspective, like around the rest of the world?
Yeah. I definitely do recognize the differences a lot. Yes. I think the comps are everywhere because there's comps everywhere. But I mean, there's a lot more festivals and artistic pursuits in Europe than there are in Australia, I think. When you think about the people who are creating art just for the sake of the art,
Mm,
rather than people who create art to compete, I think you get a lot more in Europe.
mm,
But the truth about it is there's so much more people in Europe as well. Like it's I mean that comparison of like comparing Europe and Australia, it's like you could compare one country in Europe with one country in like sorry, you could compare one country in Europe and one like with Australia, but you couldn't compare entire Europe because they're so much bigger in terms of not their numbers of people
mm.
who dance. The other thing that I think is really interesting is that I think we have such better teachers in Australia than we do in Europe. Just from a personal perspective, I think you have better artists in Europe, but I think we have better teachers in Australia. And the reason I say that is because I think there's so much more talent in Europe that the industry itself filters people into the right segment. Like when you go to the classes of the artists all around the world, right? Most of the times what they teach is the craziest content, right? So you go to Adolfo's class, he's teaching content. He'll teach technique as well with his patterns and his movements and stuff like that as well. But the majority of the class is based on content. Same with Fernando. Like 90% of the class will be content, and then like 10% would be the concepts, right? Or techniques and stuff like that, right? And so you get all these instructors. I've done Marco's classes, I've done Johnny's classes, I've done like all the big names, right? Um, and I think comparing that to Australia, the big names in Australia mostly teach technique,
Mm.
more so teach concepts like musicality and body movement, or at least that's how I think, or that's what I'd
Mm.
like to think. Um, I mean, I did some privates with some incredible dancers in Europe, and they're like, and I'm like, oh, I want to learn musicality, and then they're like, what? They're like, what? This is what we're doing today. And I'm like, no, no, but I mean, or like, I'll do lessons and they'll be like, all right, this is what we're doing. Bam, 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 bam. And I'll be like, wait, but like, I could watch a video and learn that. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
so I definitely think Australia has, maybe I should say better. Maybe I should say better. Maybe let's just say different type of instructors, man. I'm getting so much trouble for talking. So I gotta watch out. But you know, actually, one of the guys that I trained when I was over there, Eric and Monica, these artists from Spain, they live in Victoria. And I did some lessons with Eric, and he's an incredible dancer, and he was very like technique and structured based, which is what I like. You know what I mean? Like, got some questions there. Oh, it's about you. It's my interview, people. No, just joking. I'm joking. It's joking. Yes, I think the level of dance in Europe is like, I mean, without kind of any bias, it's incredible, like crazy compared to Australia. We don't have that level of dance. So the instructors have to teach content more broken down. So the instructors need to learn to explain things better. When you don't have as many talented dancers just being able to copy or being able to just do it straight away, then your ability to teach really gets challenged. And I think that's why Australia has, in my opinion, more elaborate teachers. When I'm dancing socially, I hardly dance shines. I might drop away and do a couple of swing steps. That's about it, right? But I hardly do shines away from my partner because I'm like, I can do in front of a mirror. I like, if I get to, sounds weird. If I get to touch people, I want to touch people.